Into the draft here for game number 1. Sejuani already taken away from Gideon. His tank play has been outstanding. A good idea to take that one away. I wonder whether a cheeky Xin Zhao ban is going to come on through from NONGHSIM because Owner has been so good at that pick, or whether they leave something up that needs to be prioritized and take that away.
Owner, to me, been the most consistent player on T1 this split, and
yep.
I'd say even this year. Keiria's highs have been great, but I think particularly in the last series, we did see him struggle a little bit. The vibe ban, no surprise, and I'm with you. I expect that they leave open the Xin Zhao and just pick it on first rotation.
And they can leave open the Gwen as well, because they have the counter pick of the Diana.
Oh. Okay.
What?
Well, I was actually thought you were going to make a serious point. I did not enjoy that.
Wait, you thought that I was going to make a serious point? That was your first mistake.
How can you always make it my fault? This is...
Because I'm a manipulator.
It works well. I'm an easy target. Don't give yourself too much credit. So the Xin Zhao ban is because I think Xin Zhao is the best jungler on the patch that people are still allowed to have. And they also knew that Owner was never going to get it, because I think that's 100% early rotation.
Right.
So I assume it's a Jace and Gwen trade is what you're going with here. And I think those are the only two top laners right now that feel like they're of similar power levels. It's going to be the Gwen for Doran and then Kingen. I think guaranteed this is going to be a Jace lock-in. The big question is, do you then also slam something like the ZERI, which is what I would be looking towards next. That's been a target band at T1 fairly often, and it's something that I think works well together with the Jace, gives you a lot of ranged threat and firepower.
Well, Kingen taking his time thinking about it. I think the Jace is almost a guaranteed lock-in, and there is at least the hover. The lock comes on through, and now Gideon to take the highest priority jungler left over could be an option here. We'll see exactly where he is going to go. The Azir will be the lock-in instead. So like you're saying, Deny, one of the strongest mid laners at the moment, and Faker's most played champion by a mega margin.
The Fury is open. Could see it go Owner towards that. I think he's looked decent on it. He did have the really great start against Humble Life. But you don't really need more damage. The Gwen alone, I think, is enough. So it's going to be the Skarner. Another benefit of the Skarner is that it really frees up Keria to play something a little bit weirder. Although, without looking right now, I think NONGHSIM is very likely to get counterpick for Lehends, who is also a known jester in the bot lane.
Yeah.
Now, mid lane here for Faker. The Victor is something we see pretty often, would make their top side very AP heavy. With the Taliyah you have the same, but you have a lot more utility mid-game, and you have the ability to impact the rest of the map. It does also mean that Smash most likely is going to go for something with a lot of AD damage here, because I do think that Taliyah can struggle a little bit early. There's the Poppy, and I think Poppy jungle, I'm glad we're starting to see come back. Gideon had a monster performance on
He was so good. Easiest POM ever after that game. It did make it a little bit more difficult when Kingen did mega boom boom damage. Yeah. But he still managed to pick it up. That was absolutely fantastic. No shade to Orcs for his Kingen vote, but still Gideon was super duper good. The Renata going to be banned away here from Keria, and I think Nautilus Elise, you know, the standard second round bans against Lehends.
The best part about this is that they're not locked into this being a jungler.
Yeah.
So they can pick AD carry on 4, and then either, depending on what carry ends up picking, go for Lehends counterpick, which Lehends is, outside of carry, I think, the most notorious counterpick support player that we have in the LCK. And what is going to be the setup here? Notably, the Varus has made it through the draft, and with that Azrael ban, I do think that that is going to be taken away here.
I think you almost have to.
By T1, well, especially because you can't really counter it reliably, and so many of the possible things you could go towards are already taken away. So the Renata, which would enable, like, if you go Ashe Renata, I think you still have a really strong 2v2.
Yep.
So I think the Varus ban would make a ton of sense. You do have a lot of threat with that Gwen, so maybe they think that that's enough, but with Jace as well, I think you just ban Varus. There's going to be the Rakan instead.
Wow, that's interesting. I think maybe they were expecting perhaps the Lover's Duo to come in. Lehends has been very good, as instead it will be the Alice to prioritize.
Is this a Nila angle? Is that, like, I don't think it should be. There's a Taliyah on the enemy team, but...
Oh, would be kind of fun. They've got Jace for at least a semblance of range. And Neela does better into Gwen, because Gwen can't be immune to Neela, because Neela has no range. Checkmate.
We'll see. Is Gio, I think he's, as mentioned, has not had a great performance thus far. We had him for one series, 2023 Gio, and then he was kind of gone after that.
Oh,
That
okay.
is the damage we were talking about. I think also getting a bit of an X factor in the early game is going to feel great.
The ZERI Yuumi?
It's that or Lulu, right?
Yeah, I guess
You
so.
could always go just
All
for
right.
a... Okay, there is a Lulu. I think the Lulu makes sense to really hone in on the very aggressive early laning pressure, which of course with lane swaps you can't swap away from the Lulu anymore. And this is actually a pretty reliable bully lane. So what is Gio going to pick here? Because if you end up with something short range, I think you are really going to struggle in the matchup. Ash has made it all the way through. And the one thing that I do think that you would really appreciate is NONGHSIM here is a way to kind of non-committally start fights. Varus also does that. I don't think it's quite as good as the Ash Arrow, but that is going to be the lock-in here.
This is very curious. I think T1 have a really well-rounded composition, a great deal of control. It is something that T1 has been very good at in the past, and that is controlling the early game, making sure they can snowball leads. NONGHSIM, though, if they're allowed to get any space to breathe in this game, they could just win. It's a big gamble. Let's jump into the rift for game number 1.
소환사의 협곡에 오신 것을 환영합니다. 미니언 생성까지 30초 남았습니다.
All right, here we are, ladies and gentlemen, onto the rift for game number 1 of week 3 of LCK for 2025. Doran versus King at 41-11, you said.
It is, yeah.
That's and yeah, that's Doran ahead of King in here. And I imagine there's a few of you at home that are also thinking that in your mind, the power level of Doran isn't that high. But I feel like maybe he's just been getting a bad rap, you know, over the years. He's been there in some of these most monumental failures of a lot of our LCK teams, and maybe he's bearing the brunt too heavily.
It's because the moments feel so bad.
Yeah.
But it is, for the last, what, like 4 years, Doran has been,
I mean,
on
he
average,
was the guy that got Gen G to one of their first titles. It was either first or second when he was the one that brought out the Gragas,
well,
demolished Zeus.
opinions to this point still differ about whether or not there was another big factor, which was the Pace versus Doran MVP debacle. To this day is an ongoing source of discussion amongst casters. It should come as no
I'd
surprise.
forgotten about that one.
Yeah, it should come as no surprise.
I'm like re-mad about that.
No, it should come as no surprise who I voted for.
Yeah.
But Doran to me is so interesting because his teammates love him universally on any of the teams he's been on. And particularly domestically, he has been a top 3, on average, a top 3 top laner in the LCK, right? It's just that internationally his moments are so incredibly high profile, you know, they're not showing up. They're showing up in a bad way that I think really has hurt his performance. I do think thus far though, this year he has been very muted. I haven't really seen the Doran trademark team fighting, which is one of the things that Gen G in particular really relied on. And I would like to see them kind of lean into that as Gideon. He has cleared a little bit of jungle, and he is looking, and Faker might not be ready for this puppy.
Yeah, that was a weird ping that he went for as well, as he just pushes Faker away, gets the Q down, and that is just annoying.
That's the worst. Yeah, that feels horrible. Faker is going to just have to back, is going to have to invest his TP very early, and this comes to an extremely minimal delay. For Gideon, he's not going to be bothered. And there is, again, the most consistent part of NONGHSIM thus far this year has been Gideon's early pathing. He has made so much happen on the map for NONGHSIM.
Yeah, he's been incredibly good to watch. And Len's going to get rid of Smash here momentarily. Of course, this bottom lane is going to be in favor of the ZERI LULU, just because they have double range, and Alistar isn't really a champion until level 3. Level 2 kinda, but mainly just level 3. And even then, it's not really going to help you in just the regular laning phase.
No.
Crab going to be started here by Ona towards top side of the map. Gideon going to be moving on over there, but there is a ward for T1 that's already in position. Ona going to come on over and scout things out. Or at least see whether there's a Raptor camp or a gank onto Calyx as he picks up a rock, and in he comes. Let's see whether Calyx is going to be okay, and it's just a drive-by. No harm, no foul, and Ona is going to come down and look for a double scuttle.
We'll get that. So that is the price that Gideon pays, as it turns out, for his transgression. There's a dive angle here, though.
Wow, oh my god, he's almost just dead.
Base right now. Oh, yeah, I think they know.
He does have flash, but I just don't know whether there's any way to
He might just
live.
be dead. Oh, the flash.
Good flash on the heroic charge.
Still though.
Yeah, gets his flash.
That's the
And
flash.
that's a whole wave.
Yeah, it's gonna go into the turret. TP now is a lot more punishing. Do not forget. That's going to really solidify that CS lead for King. It's nothing crazy, but the experience is a big deal. He's now half a level down, and that is going to impact. Jace is not, you know, the hardest spiking champion on level 6. The swaps come through.
Yeah, Calix eats a few rocks here, but
He still has TP.
oh wow.
Yep.
Been hanging around for quite some time. Might be why Faker is in a pretty good spot CS-wise. This wave being picked up. Calix is playing very respectfully, as we can see. Slurps up all of the minions. Faker knows, looking for a reset. He's going to hard shove as much as he possibly can. As Doran back to it here, this time on the bottom side of the map, and it is somewhat cathartic seeing a Gwen not completely run away with every matchup ever. Kingen playing this one pretty well so far, with a bit of help from his Poppy.
Yeah, and that honor is only reserved for Jace, who has done that for I don't know how long, as it's been an ongoing theme, as we do have the continued pressure of Smash and Carrier. Carrier's flash did get popped, which I'm pretty sure we didn't see, which Lanzus is also used, so I assume he just went for engage towards the bottom side of the map. But it didn't work, and I also imagine that that play is what led to this CS lead being very big. It's 350 gold this early on.
Yeah, it's pretty nuts.
It's pretty gnarly. We'll see if Gideon can impact this top lane matchup. The one thing that I do want to highlight, we haven't really talked about yet, that is in favor of T1 when it comes to the team comp. Obviously, they skill insanely well. I do think range can be an issue for teams that have limited hard engage and are playing into a lot of disengage. But there is also not really a great way to reliably lock down Smash as Lahans and Gideon.
Right. Yep, they're looking for an angle here, as Smash could be the target. There's the headbutt, double pulverized from Lahans, as Gio just not really able to do anything because Ona's making his way forward. He picks up a Poppy and looks to see whether he can get rid of him, and there is first blood, and it goes to the ZERI. Flash forward here from Ona. They are not done yet, but actually they are, because NONGHSIM will make it to their turret still. The push is going to continue, and T1, yeah, this is angry T1.
Flash from Owner notwithstanding. Amazing counter gank there. That was definitely very optimistic. I maybe you thought with the slow that they could force Gio's flash. I think killing him there is always out of the question, or maybe Lahens. But the counter gank diving there was really, really clean. A bit of a hard force there from NONGHSIM, right? You are still in a very long lane, so actually getting on top of the target there was something against Lulu, and against a ZERI is always hard. Smash also has Ghost, so between Ghost and Heal, even with the double knock-up, not quite going to be in range. Just another attempt at the play.
We're going for it one more time. That's another double pulverize, getting the flash this time out of Smash.
That's good. Good play.
Yeah, well played.
Gio has not been hitting these arrows. His Doran might be in trouble again.
Yeah, it doesn't have flash this time around, so he's just going to get booped around like a ragdoll, and Gideon going to help Kingen grab his first kill of the game. And he'll get some plates for his trouble as well. The Gwen still struggling here.
Price that is paid there by NONGHSIM is free grubs, which Ono did pick up. But with the ward, Gideon knew that this time there was no pesky counter gank available.
Wow, Calix, that was brave.
Well, you know,
Seismic Shove is an awkward skill shot, right? Like it feels like it has a lot more hitbox from the back and a lot less on the front.
I've played a ton of Taliyah. It's weird. Sometimes you have days where you just, you know, you're in the zone, you're hitting all of them. And sometimes you're like, please, someone on my team CC someone so I can do some damage.
Just set it up for me, please.
Yeah. The CS lead on both top and bot for both sides respectively is getting increasingly large here.
Yeah.
And it's been, the impact of Gideon has been really big for King, and King was also doing fine in the 1v1, not even going to miss anything there. Single minion.
Yep.
Gets the XP, so he's not going to be too bothered. Still up a level, by the way. And then on the flip side, Gio level behind. And if a few of those arrows were a bit more on point, I do feel like they could have had a little bit more pressure towards Smash and Carrier, because this bot lane is going to be a problem. And again, outside of the Poppy or Alistar somehow getting on top, I feel like that shouldn't happen unless NONGHSIM have full control of the vision or a specific area. Locking Smash down reliably is not, that's not easy.
I mean, Poppy has always been considered a good champion for it, but like you say, you have to get there.
Well, there's also Skarner and Taliyah on the enemy team, which I think make it a little...
Yeah.
Skarner into into dive is always going to be big. But again, for me, if NONGHSIM played patiently, it's going to have to be T1 that starts off any specific sequence. But T1 can obviously try to play around that by getting prio on an objective, pushing the waves. Because if they force NONGHSIM to move into them, I think the composition still works very, very well. And we have just basically even gold because of the extremely lopsided matchups in both top and bottom.
Yep. And so there are certainly some leads starting to form, like you say, they're answered. First Dragon hasn't even been looked at here 10 minutes into the game as Kingen is just wandering around being frustrating. Ona making his way in though as Doran kind of giving it away. Misses the last needlework there as we can see. So Kingen...
missing Kingen.
All right, he's feeling pretty safe. Does have the flash, elects not to use it as he does then jump over, but the seismic shove comes in and of course he is just going to die. T1, with the help of Faker, are able to grab their second.
Big mistake there by Kingen, using that flash. Dying to the gank is rough, but it's the flash specifically that I think he definitely could have helped. The moment you see that Talia wall, you're not getting out. Does Gideon just kill him?
He might. He's at least going to try. Let's see how this one goes. Yeah, okay. Good side steps. His owner's going to turn up and Gideon has to flash. A little bit optimistic by the Poppy as the teleport is going to bring Kingen back to lane. As we can see, gold lead now starting to move in favor of T1.
If he hits that Q, it might have been enough. Grasp Gwen is crazy, Atlas. Like, Gwen already is a champion that's known for being frustrated to try to all-in because her sustain is kind of out there. But when you add Grasp on top of that, the healing that it does is wild. And also Gideon misses Q, so, you know, in this instance, you can't really feel too bad for him. And it's going to cost him his flash, but it's Hex Flash.
Yeah. Just activates the Hex Flash. It's totally fine.
What is nice to see is that Calyx, even while getting counterpicked and also this kind of feeling like a pick away, has been able to kind of build off of the early lead that was given to him by Gideon, right? Build up a pretty respectable lead. Was able to get one plate, I think, and is just a little bit ahead. Nothing too crazy. We are really trying to put all eggs in the shut Doran down basket as the Grub's now going to be fought over.
Yeah, Owner is at least going to be able to take one of them, so that is Void Mites activated here for T1. I believe Gideon will be able to at least steal one of them away as they do go for a bit of a reset.
Owner might be
just
looking.
Being some artillery here.
Yeah, to just cheekily smite one away, but no, not gonna. Ooh, maybe thinking about it. Even a single smite going to 5 would be nice. Not a necessity, but it looks like they want to try and go for that.
Yeah, smite actually going to be invested. Hex Flash out from Gideon. Owner just barely unable to counter that. And 5-1 in Grub's going to be the thing here as Jiu going to have to flash. As Faker with a really nice lineup of that seismic shove. Calyx towards the bottom side is still continuing to put on pressure. You can see has a CS lead and is going to waste another minion wave, but there is a cannon here, so Faker should be able to get most of it.
Oh, Calyx?
Some vision here as Calyx does look for an angle. Conquering Sand's going to come on through, doesn't hit the flick. And there is another plate to come on down. As Kingen just playing 1v2, but there is a cheeky little cow here on the top side. Gideon's looking to move in as well, and there is. Doesn't quite find the angle there on the Pulverize. As now Owner coming on down to meet Calyx, and Calyx says goodbye. No lawnmowers for this pigeon.
Dude, that's a gruesome imagery. I'm glad that I'm glad he just was able to fly away, Atlas. Oh my god.
Yeah. And I mean, you've got a family of pigeons on your balcony right now.
I do have, yeah. There is actually, one is already hatched, the other one is still an egg. They're very cute. I've been told it's a mountain pigeon. I'm not into birding myself, so I'm not too well acquainted.
Thankfully, you have G-Sun there to tell you what all of the different pigeon breeds are.
Yeah, I had no idea that she was aware, but you know,
she knows all.
Very cute.
Have you heard of omnipotence? That's what G-Sun has.
Yeah, that doesn't surprise me. Nope. She is also always in our heads telling us what's going on. As the first dragon of the game taken, what, like 15 minutes in? 40 minutes in?
Yeah, 40 minutes. We'll give it that.
And a half?
We'll round it up. And I feel like NONGHSIM shouldn't have this little control for this stage of the game. Right now, the gold isn't really too much of an issue, but it feels like T1 are kind of doing whatever they want. as Kingen still with a lot of power here on this top side, but I think Doran is just going to get happier and happier as this game goes, right? He is a Gwen, scales quite nicely, even if it was mainly her, you know, early game that is why she's so high priority here in the LCK at the moment. She still is an absolute menace.
Yeah, so what they did is they buffed her early and then nerfed her late because her late was too good. They did a great job of buffing the early. The nerfing late didn't really go through as much as I think they had hoped, so now she's just kind of always good. Yeah. I think Jace is kind of the same though, and I do think when you have a lead on a champion like Jace, you are able to kind of maintain that. And we are going to have to see NONGHSIM set up proactively, because I do think that they can struggle if they're not going to objectives first. And the big thing is that consistently, GU has not been able to maintain the level of prior, right? Which is why Smash has been able to build such a big lead, but it's also kind of locked Lahens in. We haven't really seen him go off on journeys by his own. He's mostly been alongside GU, and again, I think the matchup is really rough. But I also do think that at this point in the game, being almost 1,000 gold behind without really any intervention is not where you want to be as Lahens.
Yeah, Faker going to look for him here as he holds the seismic shove for a really long time. Gets turned into a little snowman, which is adorable, and keeps his cool. Holds onto the flash. Faker takes a big Q there from GU at the same time as Doran going for it once again. That last needlework not quite going to connect as Faker is everywhere, but Calyx is still going to kill this turret no matter what he does. Let's see whether Faker can finish him off. The answer is no, because there is a Sun Disc being put up. Calyx just going to stand down here and continue to get money in his back pocket. 650, now the gold lead just for him.
My man is PvEing hard.
Yeah.
Okay, unfazed. That was a teleport invested from Faker, by the way. Was really looking to deny that turret getting taken, and that's a big deal. That means that now, even if T1 is able to pick up the next objective, they won't be looking too hot when it comes to defeats.
Yep.
They would need at least another kill, which...
Yeah, right now they are poised to get the other two, as Lahens doesn't have ult, remember, and Oner doesn't have the ability to get close to him because he presses Pulverize, and so that is going to interrupt.
Oh, it's the grub fight. One-item spikes have been hit across the board, but NONGHSIM sets up first. I think for both these two compositions, being to the objective first is a really big deal. Look at the zone control to come through here, but there's no Leandris yet on Calyx, so he doesn't really bother Oner too much.
Yep, and you've got GU now positioned in the mid lane. Doran on a flank angle as the rest of NONGHSIM just going to move down to welcome him to this fight. It might give Oner a bit of an angle here, as Shock Blast will be avoided. The rest of T1 just not wanting to overextend. The ebb and flow here as Calyx looks for a flank angle. He is spotted, and remember, there are rocks, so he can't just use that shifting sands with impunity. GU now continuing to get some control here as Smash comes down to collect the wave. And NONGHSIM still holding on to this one, but it should be a 50-50 as he just gets rid of him. And that is just going to be a bit of a burst onto this Rift Herald, as there it is, it's stolen by Oner. Not going to be able to pick up this Azir with the Impale, and now GU comes on over Carrier. Gonna have to get himself out of there as Lahens does have the ulti, and back in he goes! Oh! Smash gets taken by this Azir, but it's still feats of strength going over to T1. Gideon in a lot of trouble as well as Kingen. Gonna have to try and get out of there, but Faker, there is no way out for the Jace. And now Oner is running from Calyx, but he's got a blast cone, and Faker says, get out. Here's a wall, and step behind it, and they do so.
What a crazy sequence of events there. We have the successful hit from Gideon, then 5 damage short, because there's no one that can actually damage the objective.
Yep.
Calyx can't walk up because they don't have Banana Brush control, so he can't DPS until it's already too late, which means Oner gets it. I think it was Lahens that autoed that eye, a little bit troll there. And then Lahens, I think, saves this fight because they're not actually able to take down Carrier. Smash goes over the wall, the flash pulverized to take one of the biggest damage, and then
GU's just dead. Faker is just going to murder him underneath his own turret.
We don't even get Lahens.
Okay. He's looking for some sort of angle here, as it's Carrier that he's elected to try and kill. He gets thrown back, though.
No flash.
Oh, Kingen, yeah, he comes on over. But they're not going to risk it because they don't know where Oner is, and we know that Oner was just on his way.
We didn't even get to see my favorite part of the fight, which was Calyx actually holding his ult until the end, then using it, and then Gideon getting the wall slam into the ult, which I always like to see. But I think T1 They were able to get the Herald. They're looking to set up Dragon. And the play itself was fine, but it's the run-off effects of this kill on Gio that... Oh, my guy.
Yeah, what are we doing?
Yeah, just walked up to cue the cannon. Gio's struggles, unfortunately, do truly continue. Not looking good. Calyx, though, looking great. No notes on him. But Gio not losing in sums in particular as well is really rough. I do like itemization, so that's something. You know, Serpent's Fang is a really good item into T1. There's a lot of shielding between Faker, the Lulu, and the Skarner. But T1 got 2 dragons. They got the bot lane turret. Gold still is relatively even. And the 5v5s was actually looking a lot closer than I was expecting, given how rough that started for NONGHSIM.
Yep. There is the fact that T1's just being kind of able to take whatever they want. I think NONGHSIM not prioritizing these dragons at all is a big issue here, because I think a lot of their strength comes from their ability to fight for neutral. As Gideon looking to try and stop Owner from being frustrating, just press a Steadfast Presence, runs really fast, and it is not going to be too much of an issue. Arakan is going to spawn. It's of the voracious variety, because we do not have very much action so far this game. And Lahen's going to have his backstop, and maybe he is just dead. He does have his ultimate, so it might be that one that needs to be pressed first, but he doesn't even want to do that.
I feel like he should have.
Yeah, I'm going to say that that was an unforced error.
Now, maybe the reasoning is that they can't do Otacon off of it, so if he uses ultimate, then they can Otacon, but it looks like they are just going straight to Otacon.
Yeah, there's a teleport down from Calyx as well, and he could be in trouble. There is no turret here.
I assume he has it at least with that TP angle, but not putting it down just yet. And yeah, Lahen's dying. He's gonna go and make his way over, but Smash
taking a lot of damage. Yeah, exactly right. Otacon is going to soften them up here, as we know.
Yeah,
T1, they're going to back away.
Calyx just finished Leandri's. I don't think Smash was quite ready for that amount of damage. That's a big deal, because that does take all the tempo out of that play and sets up a... Oh dear. Calyx.
All right, playing with fire here a little bit as NONGHSIM assume that it's their turn to go for this one. They have so much vision around this area, and now with the Leandris, they have a lot of DPS to try and take this one down as well. No vision given over, as
Gideon has his
ult.
ult.
A teleport coming in from the Gwen as Lahen gets on top of Smash. The heroic charge comes down, and that is a piercing arrow to execute the ZERI. They're now losing so much of their DPS in this fight, as now Kingen positions behind his team, and we're flipping. We are going to land the Chains of Corruption, and there goes the jungler and support. They'll take the voracious Otacon. Calyx grabs his second against Doran, and NONGHSIM destroy the team fight.
All part of Lahen's long-term plans, Atlas.
Oh, there it is.
Bait them into a false sense of security by dying, then make sure that they go off the Otacon, then just take the Otacon yourself. Why didn't we see it?
Well,
we were not ready.
Yeah, we need to be on the same intellectual plane as Lahen's for that.
It's this play from Lahen's that wins them this fight, right? He walks back out of vision, sneaks behind enemy lines, and then Smash with flash up ends up dying. And then that alone, I felt like maybe with the Otacon debuff was salvageable, but after that ult from Gideon, no salvaging. No, sir. And that means that soul point, I think, is going to be denied. That means that, just look at the timing here, that's going to be the start of the stacking of dragons for NONGHSIM. And it's not the end of the world for T1, but this first game, Atlas, what a banger.
It's looking pretty good so far for young NONGHSIM. We do want to talk about T1 and their control of all of the objectives at the moment. Of course, they have the 5 grubs, the 2 dragons, and NONGHSIM going to need to continue to press forward.
It's not one.
Yeah, definitely not. And you can see it in the gold. It's like 400 or something like that. But NONGHSIM can play around this Otacon buff to try and get some more advantages, as Calyx and Faker are going to face off, and Calyx is going to look a little worse for wear as he makes his way up, but it's not that needlessly large rod.
Because Faker had a Lulu.
Yeah.
So
Calyx does have
cheating.
a free life as well.
He does, yeah.
That's
So
somewhat helpful.
as a NONGHSIM predictor, how are we feeling so far?
I mean, this is better than I expected, to be honest. As there's an Impale, maybe it's going worse, as Gideon's going to have to flash to get out of the way of that one. Activating Hex Flash, maybe a positive. Now Doran gets into the mist. I don't know about this one, as they evict the jungler, and Gideon is just going to say, that is time for us to take the outer turret.
That was actually really funny. So Doran used the mist, which meant his backline got hit by an empowered shot block.
Yeah, definitely blocking it.
I think they were going to lose control of that turret anyway, but definitely not the intended thing to have happened there. And do note, NONGHSIM will not be able to use the buff for this dragon. And if Owner ends up still getting this Drake, you know, if it's a smite fight and they take it, T1 is going to be completely unfazed by what has happened so far because the gold is still even. T1 was able to pick up the feats. T1's composition still skills insanely well. Again, range issues is something we're going to keep going back to, but NONGHSIM, as well as they've played so far, I don't think have been the most calculating, you know? That's just not really who they are, so I could see a scenario where they don't really use the range to the maximum potential, just kind of run in. But they do get the dragon, and that's a really big deal.
Yep. I think the thing that's impressed me the most is how they've shut down Doran so effectively, even within team fights. The fact that Gideon gets on top of him, presses Steadfast Presence, and then he can't do anything for the entirety of the team fight means that if they are able to kill Smash at the beginning of every fight, he doesn't just get McHale's down to the first CC and run amok, then I think NONGHSIM should be able to get something done. Calyx, good head on his shoulders there as he sidesteps the From the Darkness seismic shove.
I think he had vision, but he's been playing. This is not the same Calyx that we had last year.
Exactly.
I do want to highlight that. Obviously, it's the first game. As mentioned, I don't think Faker has been nearly as impressive as he has been in many of his other seasons. Thus far in spring is, Gio.
This is looking somewhat oppressive if you were to ask Gio his opinion. He does flash away and has the barrier there as well. Headbutt Pulverize onto Owner, but he is looking mighty tanky right now as Smash looking a bit worse for wear. Lehens presses his ultimate button and has to flash away, and that is a lot invested just to get their cow out of the slaughterhouse.
And that matchup was just looking up for Gio because not due to his efforts, mostly because the team is team fighting well. They'd actually been able to get him back to within touching distance. It was only like 300 gold. Now his sums are down again. Now I don't think Gio is the main character on this team. That is very much King and Calyx, and honestly even Gideon is. Oh my god.
There is some vision here for T1, but they're just over the wall.
They're not clued into this at all. You don't see any pings. It's a T1 Baron! And they're getting T1s!
Oh, look at all of the vision that they avoided.
It's gone!
It's just gone. It's just gone. They are masterminds. They are using T1's strategies against them. Now they're going to get the idea of what's going on, but there goes the Baron, and Lehens says, Owner, get the heck out of here. They might lose their Alistair, but I don't think they're too worried about that one. It's goodbye, Gwen. And the Impale is going to skewer him, but I mean, you can eat a kebab, but you're not going to win this game. I gotta stop making the steak references. I really do.
I just needed the second to parse that one. I'm like, what? Kebabs? What? That's too expensive for a kebab, okay? Are you giving up a Baron? That's not worth.
That's the Wagyu kebab right there. But yeah, no,
why would you do that?
Exactly, why would you?
There's so much spices, you can barely taste it. There's no point.
It's very true. However, sometimes you go for it.
Well, T1 clearly, it's the tourist trap. You know, you're like, man, I'm here anyway. You know, it looks so nice. Don't do it.
Well, now with the Baron, NONGHSIM are looking to augment that by increasing this Rebel Baron power play. Already up to 2K, so they've got a little bit already in the tank as far as the extra money is concerned. We'll see how many of these turrets they'll be able to take down. Overextending into T1 going to be a dangerous proposition, but remember, this is the comp with all of that range. If they can hold T1 at bay, this Baron could do so much work, and already Calyx getting to it on this top side.
Ooh. And as you highlighted, I do think that we talked a lot about Faker. I think this game he has been having a great impact on Celia. A lot of impact in side lanes, looking a lot cleaner.
They're getting engaged on. There's a free double pulverize there as Doran pulls himself over. Seismic shove doesn't get Gideon over the wall as he flashes away. Some knockouts coming on through here as Smash has already grabbed a kill, and Owner, he comes on in, but Lehens has got an unbreakable will, and he's basically immortal. Kingan gonna take down the Scorpion and gets rid of Smash. Smash still, they're able to take down this Jace, and every kill that T1 gets is worth so much more because they're getting rid of the Barons.
Oh, that was very, very close in many occasions. In the end, I think T1, as you say, gonna be happy with that trade 2 for 2. As, Calyx, he is not, should be afraid, I do think.
Yeah, there were no rocks
Never
on the
mind.
ground, so he's able to shift his way out.
Never mind, trying to get the most out of that buff. Kingen, don't be fooled by the KDA, is really going God mode in this one. So there's a lot that happens here. Initially, it looks like a nice setup, but a lot of damage does go into the Skarner specifically here. Was able to make his way over the wall, and then that flick from Faker forces out the ult from Lahens, basically kills Gideon.
Wild growth as well.
And then the this time around, Smash actually with a really nice angle in the fight. Then Kingen murders the Skarner as he gets impaled, but this wall from Faker locking in means that locking in Kingen means that he ends up dying. I think Calyx was actually looking for more there.
Whoa! Gee, what are we doing? We are baiting out the enemy team as they push Owner in. Billy's looking for Jiu, and maybe this is why Jiu is playing like a plastic bag for the early game, to set up for the greatest bait of all time.
Well, he fooled us, so of course he also fools T1.
All right, well, Calyx has got out of there and in there at the same time. Still,
a second Infernal Drake Atlas.
yeah, second Infernal going to go over to NONGHSIM. I want to just consult the gold lead just for a moment. It's only 2,000. At 30 minutes into the game, that means basically nothing. But Owner being on the floor here is a bit of a problem. Let's have a look at this once again. My goodness, we're going fishing.
It actually is just straight up Geo being dangled.
Yeah.
Like, it's not even subtle. There's a TP, Lahens is on a flank, Gideon is standing by in the brush, and they knew they were going to be there because the dragon was spawning, so they knew if Geo, again, without flash, was like 15 seconds, that's too tasty of a bait, Atlas. You got to go for that.
You certainly do. And now he has flash, and he didn't even die.
And
so...
he still has only died once this game. That's the craziest part to me.
Yeah.
I don't think he's played well by any means, but he's only died once.
Yep. Not a full-on liability, but certainly hasn't been the carry of this game. That has been Kingen once again. Calyx still 3-0-2. The young gentleman with his cool hourglass put together as well.
But look at that. I think once Smash hits a 4th item, well, a lot of these fights have been pretty drawn out. If Smash isn't dealt with early on in the fight, as soon as he finishes that item,
oh yeah,
there is no shot that NONGHSIM will still have the damage. We also haven't really seen him lean into the range advantage too much.
Oh, Kingen, we got a bit of a zoom in here as the shock blast goes wide. Very close. NONGHSIM still wanting to make sure that this death rush is still there. Faker moves in, wanting to see if he can find a seismic shove, but Lahens and the rest of NONGHSIM playing around the vision that they already have set up, really protecting this control ward that T1 really want to get rid of. Look at this topside vision. There is some vision still there for T1. You can see that control ward in the top tri-brush. A scary one with double teleports, both up and oh god. Carrier he's dead if he's hit by another. Okay, well, he's gonna go home. And NONGHSIM then going to have some control. I think that Carrier also did want to go back, collect more wards and things like this, go for a bit of a reset anyway. That's probably what he's going to be saying to himself, but that is looking dangerous. And this is what we're talking about, right? Those shock blasts, you don't need to commit anything, apart from a bit of mana that you're not really worried about, and it's a 4-item Jace. Cyrilda's already done.
T1, all they want is it done? IE on Smash, there it is.
Oh, wow.
Smash, last fight was good. The other fight's just a little bit too trigger happy, got focused on early. A composition for T1, particularly with Doran as far behind as he is, does rely on him actually doing this. Kingen!
Oh
Doran!
dear. There's some mist. Doran gonna have to get out of there. As Kingen, did he hit another one? Because I was busy focusing on the lady running with scissors, which you should never do. As NONGHSIM just gonna walk back, head towards this very dark Baron pit.
Love to see it.
All right, you can see the rest of NONGHSIM, they're going to move on over. There is a Scry's Orb, just to make sure that they're not taking this Baron down. And Calyx and Gideon take that as an invitation. Lahens, he could be the target. He does have to use the ult to get out of the Impale. Flick back there as well as they are committing to this Baron. Doran's getting over there, but I don't know whether they're going to be able to do this in time, as Owner is relatively low and they're still on this Baron. Owner is going to have to flash out, but there goes Calyx, and it's Smash that's being the hero. The Baron will be locked down by NONGHSIM, and now they really want to get out of there. Oh, that wild Flick, there goes the kill, and T1 right back in the driver's seat.
적을 처치했습니다.
They clean aced them! That's game!
That should just be game over. Okay.
Not even close, Atlas.
Yeah,
This was...
Yeah. They were in control the whole time.
All along. There was no worry whatsoever.
Nope.
I did not expect the Infinity Edge power spike to be that big a deal. They do not...
Well,
Actually,
tanking a little bit.
It's too much.
I don't think Calyx is going to be able to kill this minion wave.
Well, you will.
And they got 5 drops.
There's the next one, right? The next one is Kongan in. That's just it.
Yep. They're just going to be able to execute these turrets. Down goes the Nexus as well, and T1 just ripped victory from the jaws of defeat in game 1.